Roy's going to update on the activities of Exit the WHO, a national frantic effort to wake people up.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm also going to take the liberty to speak on a couple of other issues. Kathy mentioned earlier that she tends to follow some of the commercial radio, ABC, etc., to see what's being said and how woke they are, etc. Without boring you, I've been doing a bit of truck driving recently in the freight industry, so I've got hours on my hands. I listen to the ABC all day and I come home and I tell my wife, did you know this? Had you heard that? Did you know how woke they are today? Following on from the nurses, I was going to mention this a bit later, but I think it's relevant now. About a week ago, there was a whole heap of hoo-ha on the ABC about this shortage of nurses. The opposition had had this brainwave to do like other states and provide incentives to attract new nurses, etc. They were debating this back and forward. They were having public consultation and people were ringing in saying what they thought, etc. Anyway, I thought, well, I'll ring up and talk about the elephant in the room, the fact that we've got squillions of nurses out there that were displaced by the mandates, etc. Yeah, I was patting myself on the back as well, but guess what? They wouldn't give me a hearing. As soon as they got a whiff of what I was talking about, I got shut down. So if you're confused about whether we have an objective media or not, we do not. I just thought I'd mention that, and all the best, nurses, with your work. Yeah. Kathy also mentioned a couple of major events and things that have happened this last week, but she skipped over one. Unless you've been living under a rock this last week, you would have heard about the huge, massive, ferocious lockdown of Adelaide, suburbs, CBD, etc., from these troublesome bloody demonstrators the other day. Now, the guts of it is, if you were living under a rock and you haven't heard from it, there's a group of demonstrators. I won't even talk about the issue, it's irrelevant. One of them dangled from the Morford Street Bridge. Now, any logical person, I consider myself a moderately logical person, any moderate person, logically person would have said, well, what can we do about this? We could put up some witches' hats, block off that lane and let her dangle up there all day. Or they could have put up some witches' hats, blocked off the lane, brought in a cherry picker and helped her down to the ground. Either of which would have caused nearly no disturbance. Or they could shut down the whole frigging city as though there's a nuclear bomb about to go off and cause all the disruption about the place and then blame the demonstrators for this major disruption. Following on from that, our brave little opposition leader and our heroic Premier leapt to their feet with outrage about this major disruption to the city, and they shoved through very quickly an Act of Parliament to forcefully punish people that do this sort of disruption. Including us. You've got to ask yourself the question, what is the motivation behind this sort of activity? Are these people, are our government and our opposition, are they hell-bent on representing us, the people, or are they getting to the point where they want to squash dissent? And Kathy had a lot more trouble today, if I may say, getting this rally organised about the bloody trees that might fall over and whatever. What's behind that, do you think? Do you think maybe the local council has got that weeny bit more woke as well due to the events of the last week, and so they're making it more difficult for people who may possibly dare to exercise a bit of dissent? I mean, this is in-your-face stuff. I mean, I can hardly speak of the outrage I feel about what's happened with this legislation. Those two guys, Malinauskas and Spears, have had 3 years to do something worthwhile about all the lockdowns, all the mandates, all the BS that went on with COVID, and they did nothing. The other day they leapt to their feet, slammed through some legislation in 24 hours. How's that for action when they really want to do something? I'm sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. I couldn't believe it. So my point is, I guess, I'm just observing. Those two guys, opposition leader and the Premier, to me, they jumped on an opportunity to get some cheap publicity. People would be outraged at being stuck in the traffic and so on, so it'll be really popular if we're hard on the people that caused the demonstration. So they jumped on this issue to grab some cheap political points. I think they are, look, without naming names, I think a lot of politicians are too, I'll use the word naive, uneducated, not critical thinking enough to actually recognise what the important issues are. So to that end, we need to spell it out for them. So I know I've taken a while to get to this point, but the last time I spoke in front of you was about the Exit the WHO thing. The World Health Organisation's proposing all these amendments, which essentially gives them an all-powerful position. If they say jump, all the countries that are in this agreement have to comply. If they tell us to be jabbed with this, that and the other, if they tell us to be locked down, we have to comply with all that stuff. So this is very important. It hasn't gone away. We still need to work on it. It's still being debated. So my point about the politicians is we need to put it in black and front what the issues are. So in terms of the Exit the WHO thing, there's a really important petition going around that you can go online. There's some information over there at that table under the blue tent, or you can just go online to australiaexitsthewho.com and get information there. This petition is to get politicians to look at this and oppose it. So please support this petition. Tell your friends about it, and it's just not something we can have a one-hit wonder on. We have to keep persisting with these things. We have to keep persisting with. I'm using surcharges on credit card payments with only 5,000 signatures. Okay, so the petition, don't forget that, don't forget to tell your friends. There is a really good initiative going around too about the WHO and it's postcards to the Prime Minister's office and Dutton's office. Now the really clever, and I think 4,500 of these have been sold, and the really clever thing about this, you know what a postcard is. It's got a picture or whatever on the front and writing on the back. Anyone who sees this thing can read it. It's not sealed. So the beauty of this thing, all these postcards are going to get sent to Dutton's and Albanese's office, and everyone in the postal system, wherever this thing goes, it will be visible. And they're quite funny. They say, hey Albo, hey Dutto, blah, 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 blah. So they're really quite funny. So, no, I'm not going to finish yet. I've got a bit to go yet. So, go and talk to my wife Barbara over there in the blue tent, because she knows all about it. I'm just the mouthpiece here. I don't know much about this stuff. I just talk. She's the one who does all the work. Right. There are also these stickers that you can buy over there, $10 for this one or $5 for one half the size. Exitthewho.com, etc. So it promotes this whole Exit the WHO thing. Get onto it. Right, there's a really major event coming up on the, I haven't got it in front of me here, Barbara, I think it's the 4th, June the 4th, it's a Sunday afternoon. It's run by AMPS, which is the Australian Medical Professionals Society. And if you don't know, AMPS is the ethical doctors organisation as compared with APRA and some of the other ones that exist. So AMPS is the ethical organisation, and they are bringing Dr. Aseem Malhotra to Australia. And we are very lucky to get him in South Australia. Originally he was only booked for the major states. A brief summary on him. He's a very esteemed cardiologist. I'll skim through this. He was jabbed, his father was jabbed, he used to promote the jab early on. His father died very suddenly of a very mysterious heart attack type issue. They did a post-mortem and he's now completely flipped to the other side, and he goes around the world saying how disastrous this whole thing is. Also at that event is Dr. Chris Neal, who's the head honcho of AMS. He will be speaking. Our very own Senator Alex Antic will be speaking, and there are other important people speaking. Now, Roger, where are you, Roger, with the fluoro jacket on? He's handing out flyers, and you can also, there he is, and you can also get them at the tent over there. So the tickets are 3/4 sold for that. So if you want to go to that, it'll be a magnificent event in the Norwood Town Hall. Doors will open at 3, and the show starts at 3:30 and ends at 7 p.m.
Thank you. You've got to finish. Kidding.
I've got to finish, Kathy says, but Kathy, I haven't finished. Just getting back to the reasons for the petition earlier on, I'm shuffling papers here. The amendments to the international health regulations that were adopted on the 27th of May 22 have not been debated on or voted on by Parliament. As I said, these guys are dopey, you've got to tell them what's important. The people of Australia have not had an opportunity to express their opinions regarding these legally binding changes to international law. Please get onto these things and give us your help, people. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roy.